Welcome to Talk About here on Shaw TV North Island. Thanks for tuning in. We've got another information-packed show. We'll try and make it entertaining for you. The guest is Stephen Watson, BC Hydro spokesman for Mid-North Island. And Stephen, thanks very much for coming in.
Good to be here, John.
There's a lot to talk about.
There is, absolutely.
I want to start with the personal. You've been with Hydro for a long time, and you a fairly well-known fellow in town. How long has it been, and what is the evolution?
Yeah, well, I've been with BC Hydro for 23 years now, and I started in customer services and meter reading and taking calls and dealing with trouble calls with power outages, and essentially I've been in community relations, capital projects planning for about 14 years, and I've worked with the Cam River community for since 2000. So a lot of things have happened in the last 14 years.
Yeah, now communications, and that's media relations, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, but customer relations as well, if you got somebody with a problem with a smart meter?
Yeah, well, basically it's a little bit of everything. We deal with, it's not just media relations, it's stakeholder engagement is the vast majority of it. So we have a Cam River System Liaison Committee, about 30 stakeholders and agencies that we meet on a regular basis, presentations, customer individuals who phone, have a particular issue, we try to reconcile it, issues management, that kind of thing. So it's quite a vast amount of an emerging issue. That morning to like the John Hart project, where start to finish, it's well over 10 years. So,
I'm curious about the smart meters. Did you get many? Well, we know some of them people didn't want them, but were there many where the new meters were defective?
No, not that I'm aware of. I'm not quite in the smart meter area per se. That's quite a vast area, but we have a number of customers have asked if they're working properly or not, and we've done a number of tests, Energy Management Canada and so forth, and they've all come back fine. So I think we're now on the other side of that whole project.
So I can't blame my new smart meter for my jumped up hydro bill.
Well, that seemed to be timed with the winter demand, so people noticed their bills going up. And I think there was some correlation there. And it was interesting enough, it wasn't a smart meter, it was the old analog meter, so it was the same kind of.
Good stuff. Okay, switching gears to a good story. This front page story, Wednesday, April 2, Hydro crew frees couple from vehicle. You know, we've had actually we haven't had a lot of storms lately.
Yes.
But when we did have, your crews were out there and, you know, here they are, they're saving lives. Hydro's kind of a special entity in that. It affects a lot of people in a lot of ways. Yeah,
it's interesting you mention that. You know, people think of the lights being on and us providing that and reliable power. But in the Cam River area, we provide a lot of things from our presence with the Cam River system. It's flood risk management. The domestic water supply comes from our pipelines. So we have a quite important presence here in the Cam River area, and we try our best to maintain that relationship.
Now, recently we had Michelle Babchuk on the show, School District 72 chair, and she said that the school district is the largest employer in town. But I wonder, Hydro might be close.
Well, yeah, we have between the Cam River District Office, which is the Evergreen Road and the power line side of the business, there's about 30 or 40 people there. And then for the John Hart facility, there's about 50. So we're around 90 people that work and live in Cam River.
Okay, that's not as big as I thought.
No.
But when the construction project starts,
they'll certainly increase.
Yes.
Yeah,
what are the numbers there?
Yeah, so that's going to start. They're mobilizing now this spring very slowly. They'll be building an office kind of work camp at John Hart for their office staff. So that's going to slowly build. They'll start working on the tunnel. The first year and a half will be like a mining operation to remove all that rock. It's all underground.
Have you found a spot for the rock yet?
Well, we've been working with First Nations on that. So we've worked out an agreement with both bands here that any excess rock can go to them. And there's a lot of rock. Roughly it's around 300,000 cubic meters of rock, which is about 120 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So it's quite a bit, and there'll be a lot of truck traffic for the first year and a half. So we'll develop traffic management plans with S&C Lava and those kind of things. So.
Yeah. Sorry, I kind of cut you off. I wanted to get that point in though. But in terms of the number of people at peak in construction.
Yeah, so it'll peak. It'll get to about 200 people by the end of this year, and then it'll peak around 360 positions around 2016. So, we had a business event in Campbell River on March 31st, April 1st.
Yeah.
We had about 600 people
Yeah.
come through the Maritime Heritage Centre, everything from large construction companies, ancillary businesses, security environment, to individual job seekers. There's a lot of interest of people wanting to come back from Fort Mac and areas like that to work on the project. I think there's two things. One is just the jobs, and it's a really unique project. A lot of people want to work on it,
Yeah.
which is great. We're looking forward to that local involvement.
Yeah. This headline, big project draws huge job interest.
Yes.
Yeah, and then of course the other paper had a headline that was similar. But what was the gist out of that? Well, you mentioned some already.
Yeah, well,
but
I mean,
what was the highlight?
there's a few things. We're unable to suggest in our procurement, we can't say 75% of the people have to come from local. There's certain fair business opportunities and protocols in place there. So we had a speed dating event in 2012, which allowed all three bidding teams at that time to meet and understand the excellent subcontractors and supplies and trades that work here.
So that would help them do the
So
bid.
that helped them, and it helps them, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to go out there and try to find that.
Yeah.
So with this, now knowing S&C Lavalin and their team members like Acon, which is a civil builder, Frontier Camper, which is a world-renowned tunneling company, Hatfield, which is their environmental people, they brought all the right people so that the subcontractors locally could meet and engage the right people. So they had up to 7 minutes with interviews.
Yeah.
They're all provided a general presentation of where things are at.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an opportunity for them to engage and ideally get bids on the very packages. And some of it will be sole source because it's kind of low. But so yeah, it's S&C Laval and their team they're going to try to hire as much local as they can, which is great.
Yeah. Now, we'll return to the John Hart project because there's a lot of questions about that. But a couple of sort of more general things I wanted to get to. Hydro, is building something at Quinsam, but you've also got some temporary offices at Campbell River Common Mall. What's happening there?
Well, there's lots of things going on. So we have the existing district office, which is the power line side of the business, if you will. And that's on Evergreen Road, and that building is decades old and in poor condition. We've outgrown it, and it's in poor condition. So we own that site. It's 10 acres and the building, and we've developed agreement with the Weewakai First Nation. So we're building a state-of-the-art business or office building with Mercy preparedness and it's close to the leads design and all that kind of stuff. So. That started last year, and Omicron is the project developer on behalf of BC Hydro. So they have a number of subcontracts, a lot of local hires. Waycor got the earthworks, all those kind of things. So that's 60 jobs. That'll be finished in early 2015, and so we'll move there. And then we're working out how we're going to deal with the Evergreen office. Yeah. But because with the John Hart Generating Station Replacement Project, there's about 50 staff, and that whole office area is going to be, laid down, and a lot of work happening there. So they've temporarily moved to Campbell River Common, and they'll be there for the duration, and then they'll come back to the John Hart location around 2019.
So the Campbell River Common Mall offices are managing the John Hart
operations. Absolutely. So they're facilities management. So they maintain the facility, and they don't just do John Hart. It's Ladora, Strathcona, and the other three watersheds on Vancouver Island, like Puntledge.
You mentioned water. Let's get that out of the way too, because that's another thing, like the power, the light switch that affects everybody. Yeah. You kindly sent me an update just moments ago on my email about the water situation. It's complex. Can you remember enough to give the viewers what's going on?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a water license, and it has basically targets in the reservoir and the river, and we manage within those bands.
Yeah, maintaining water for the fish.
It's interesting because our CEO a few years ago came out and realized that power generation was about third on the list. It was quite interesting because it's fish and it's water supply and there's all kinds of different things, recreation, the upper reservoirs. So, this fall, winter, I think people know it was very, very benign. I mean, we barely had a storm. It was dry, very little snowpack. So we were in pretty tough straits here come February. And so we've been working with government fish agencies. We've managed to keep the key fish habitat covered in the Campbell River, and that'll be continued. March was slightly above normal, but we're in a low point with snowpack and reservoir levels that we're still below normal.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to work with agencies to get through that. I think we'll be fine into June. But beyond that, if it stays dry, it's going to be tough. People that recreate on Upper Campbell, but a lake, it could be not as nice this year. We'll see. And of course, we need to keep that river habitat covered so the fry and the smolt can out-migrate into the ocean and those kind of things. So we'll get through it, but it's been a tough year.
I saw one number jumped out from the email. The power project right now, power plant is running at 50% capacity? That seems awful low.
Yeah, we've been running the Vancouver Island facilities around 20 to 50% of capacity all winter.
Yeah.
And this is the time of year when it's flood risk management on Vancouver Island. We're running at full load. So we've had to bring a lot more power from the undersea cables that connect to Lower Mainland to keep the lights on for the wider region. So we could, because of the provincial grid, we can manage through this just fine. It just means more power coming from off island. So the focus really for us has been the social environmental issues, and that'll continue.
How much power do you draw from the natural gas generating station north of town here?
Yeah, the Allen could generate. Yeah, the gas plant it's around 290 megawatts, I think, and so it's more of a standby unit. So
well,
if
I saw it going one day. I was driving
down
Dogwood,
it has,
and there was a big plume. And
it has been running. It has definitely been running this year, and so we do call upon it. It's basically to call upon when we have some issue or some maintenance going on, but because of the conditions on the island, it makes sense to run it. Like anything. We lose about 10% of the power through line losses when we bring it from the Peace Columbia area. So it does make sense to generate locally.
Tricky stuff, eh?
Pardon me?
Tricky stuff.
It is.
The cost of the island cogen versus the power loss from...
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, our heritage assets or the hydro facilities, a lot of them were paid off a while ago, and it's operating. And they provide low-cost energy, and it's a balance with independent power producers like the gas plant here in Campbell River. So it's part of the wider mix. And so they all have a value.
You don't make those decisions, though, I guess.
No, it's not mine. No.
Well, I was going to ask you, are you the largest employer in town now? Well,
no. Well, we will be maybe in a couple of years. But of course, we have the hospital project and things like that. So it's going to be a busy time.
Okay, just to finish off the water issue. So if we have a normal spring, there could be problems late in the summer.
Well, if we have like an average spring and average summer, I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
If it's slightly below average, understanding we have a water supply forecast, and basically we're looking from between now and the end of summer for inflows to be about 78% of normal. So if we get below normal from here on in, it's going to drop. Yeah. So that means less water for different water use interests. So we'll see how it goes.
But the fish come first.
The fish are high on the priority list. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well done. Now you mentioned the John Hart relocation project. Is that what you?
Well, it's interesting.
I've seen different names.
Yeah, well, the most common one is the John Hart Dam project.
Yeah.
And we're not doing anything to the dam.
Yeah.
It's just a easy, I guess, way to consider it. But we're doing all works are downstream of the dam. Yeah. We're moving the water intake over about 300 meters from Bruce Lake Road Bridge. That's where the current intake is. We're moving it across to the spillway dam, which is concrete. So there's one block that we'll cut through. It'll go straight down about 120 meters and then down. So what we're doing, this project essentially is replacing the pipelines, the three of them with underground tunnel, 8.1 meters in diameter, about 2.1 kilometers long.
8.1 meters, that's 24 feet?
A little bit,
25
maybe
feet?
slightly bigger. Yeah, so, and that goes to the generating station. So all our work is essentially downstream of the dam, and it's called the John Hart Generating Station Replacement Project. So maybe we call it the John Hart Generating Station Project. That might work, I don't know.
Yeah, but so replacement and relocation.
Yeah, the existing generating station, the new one's going to be about 600 meters upstream, the pipeline corridor. It's I think it's about 50, 60 meters below the surface. It's about 40 meters high. It's quite large, and we have the seismic drivers that'll be dealt with because it's all in rock. The reliability issues. Well, we have a brand new facility, and one of the biggest risks was environmental. We talked a little bit about the fish flows and things of that nature. With existing units, 95% of the river flow comes out of the station. So we can't restart the units or increase the ones that are operating. We have to spill water from the dam. And that takes about an hour for that water to get down there. Yeah. So with this facility, the bypass will be built and inside the generating station. So within a minute, the flows will be maintained. So downstream there'll be no issues. So that's a big benefit.
That's brilliant. Whose idea was that?
Well, it's
kind of a collective?
Yeah, it's the first time we've actually undertaken this procurement model where typically BC Hydro will design it and then it goes out to BC Bid and someone builds it. This one was where we invited 3 teams to come up with the design and construction of it. So we have a big, thick project agreement that spells out all the requirements and standards. But it was, at the end of the day, SNC-Lavalin, who was the lowest cost bid, but it had a fantastic design. So it was this is the ingenuity and innovation that SNC-Lavalin and their team members brought. Yeah. So we're very pleased with it.
And did they also include the separate intake for the city water?
So that's a separate discussion. So what happened there is, yes, the City Cam River, 32,000 people and a few thousand in the regional district have their water supply. And of course, the Indian reserves here too, First Nations. Yeah. So we've engaged the City Cam River, and particularly when we made the decision of not replacing the pipelines with new pipelines but going to tunnel, now you can't tap into that. And so we've been working them for a number of years on trying to find that solution. And it's quite complex because our site's surrounded by the Elk Falls Provincial Park. Yeah. And so it's construction. You remove the pipelines, but then you have to have the city water supply in. It's the same construction corridor. So anyway, we've worked with the city and we've developed, I think, a really good outcome for both BC Hydro and the city for their water intake. A new water intake is a new pipeline detached from our facility that'll go in the John Hart Reservoir. Yeah. So we're providing 75% of the funding towards that.
I was just going to ask, who's paying for that?
Yeah, well,
good old Hydro's paying for it.
Yes, we were thinking it might be in the 25 to 50% range a number of years ago, and we managed to come in at 75%, and that's based on the BC Utilities Commission, our regulator, because everyone in the province pays hydro rates. And so we were able to defend that, and I think it's a good outcome. I know the city is looking for additional funds to help to fund their $4.5 million or so. We're providing about $12.5 million for that 75% funding. So it's significant, and it'll be much better. There's a seismic risk right now. So if you have an earthquake, it's significant. We have to draw down the reservoir. The city doesn't have water. So by going deeper in the reservoir, it'll be a much better situation. So like our facility being structurally better for seismic events, so will the city's water supply.
I think the going underground thing, that was a surprise, and it sounds brilliant. Can you explain a bit more about
how did we get there?
Yeah.
Well, we were originally going to replace the pipelines, and the issue is the intake dam. Some parts of the John Hart Dam, which is just over 800 meters long, some parts of it are earthfill and not founded on rock. So the intake dam is not founded on rock, so we have some liquefaction potential. It could shift a little bit. The pipelines that go downstream, we could put ring girders and spiral down into the ground, but it was getting more and more expensive and uncertain that it would still withstand an earthquake. So the cost went up, and then we realized, gee, what if we went underground? And so we looked, and the costs ended up being the same. Huh. So it just made sense. We get a much stronger facility, so it's a good thing.
So was that an SNC-Lavalin idea, or was it a hydro idea?
That was a hydro idea. We basically, we required the tunnel.
So all three of the bidders were told?
Yes, they had to build a tunnel. What was uncertain was where the generating station was going to go, and where the bypass was going to go. Was that going to be part of the station or something else? So the tunnel was always there, all within BC Hydro property, not into BC Parks lands. And it was where the generating station was going to go. So it surprised a lot of people. Yeah. People think it would be beside the river, and it's 600 meters upstream. Yeah. So it's at the end of the day, when all these facilities are removed, like generating station will be cut down to the ground level, all the pipelines will be removed. 2 of the 3 surge towers will be gone. We're keeping one because it's got a communications equipment on it. Yeah. In many ways, it'd be like there's barely a facility there, so it'll be much better.
I don't know if it's a bigger project, but it's a better project, but it'll a smaller footprint.
Much better. I mean, those pipelines go 1.8 kilometers. There's the canyon there, but it's wildlife migration. It's going to be reforested. The wood stave section was treated with creosote, wood preservatives, some contamination. That'll all be remediated and likely barged to Vancouver for proper disposal. Can't use it for hot tubs, anything like that. Can't do that. So that site will be remediated and better fit into the Elk Falls Provincial Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when do shovels go in the ground?
Well, right now, SNC Lab and their team are getting their permits and approvals to get what we call a leave to commence on the site. So I think they'll start in June time period to start to construct the site office area on the lower part of the BC Hydro property by the generating station, and then they'll start with the just upstream of the surge towers. That's going to be 2 tunnels going into the area. That's going to be the major haul route. All that rock will come out into the Highway 28 General Hill area. And so that'll start late summer, early fall, and go from there.
Yeah.
So.
And so a maximum of about 500 construction people?
Well, it's hard to say the actual number of jobs over the 5
over
years.
time,
It's about 200 at peak on the site later this year, 360 around 2016.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what the total number of jobs will be, but it'll be fairly significant. Yeah.
Where are those people going to stay?
Yeah, there's a lot of interest in the jobs, but of course there's a lot of people who have houses to basement suites or those kind of full houses to rent.
There's a certain hotel downtown that's empty right now.
Yes, there is. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. We had that business event March 31st, April 1st, and my understanding is all the hotels were booked. Person had to stay in Comox Valley, which is interesting. But yeah, no, there's about 40 or so people that like management engineers will be staying here for the 5 years, and some of them have already bought houses here.
Yeah.
That kind of mobilization is happening now. SNC Labs got a temporary office here so things are starting to happen. I think going on for the actual workers, some people will be here for a few weeks, some people a few months, and as I mentioned, some people for the 5 years. So they may bring their families. It could be a few more kids in the school district. There's some implications, I think, good by bringing those people here.
I get the sense that, okay, so there's roughly 500 people needed to build this thing, but will there be other people coming to service those 500? And I'm not meaning like, another restaurant, but more in terms of like maybe an engineering company needs a design guy or a mechanic or something?
Well, it's spin-off jobs.
Yeah.
And so, there's at one particular time, there's 360 people working there. But yeah, where are they going to stay? And as a side, we don't have a database on accommodation. A lot of people contact me about having that. The Chamber of Commerce has a website, and under suppliers, you can post information on accommodation. But in terms of other things, machinery, subcontractors, it depends where that's done. I mean, the IMSA is the generator turbine supplier from South America. So they're going to manufacture a lot of that equipment and bring it here. And so, that's bringing barges and whatever. So there's a lot of nuances that are going to go into that. So it'll be quite interesting to see what happens. I guess in some way, I'm not quite sure what that looks like right now, but that'll develop.
So would it be fair to say roughly 500 at peak direct, but maybe some others indirect?
Well, no. Well, it's 360 at peak at site. Now, in terms of beyond that, I can't really say, but it's a fair amount. Of course, with the hospital project and other developments, it's going to be an interesting time.
You mentioned the Chamber. I don't know if you mentioned, but anyway, the major projects website that they've got, that seems to have been pretty successful.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I wanted to bring that up. I think there's a saying, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so it was really important that the Chamber of Commerce, through Colleen Evans and NIAFS, the North Island Employment Foundation Society, Doug Preston, we just recently got involved, which is great, with the North Vancouver Island Aboriginal Training Society, the Vancouver Island Construction Association. So we've worked together to help each other out, and we want to have people knowing about the project and know how to be involved.
Yeah.
And we've been able to achieve that. So the first thing was the Major Projects web portal site, a very unique website that saved a lot of my time. I can refer a lot of people there to follow the project because we post news items and PowerPoint presentations and those kind of things. So it's majorprojects.ca is the website. And so it's been an excellent site, and that's where everyone had to register for that business event. They all had to go there, so it was very contained. And then Hydro developed a speed dating event in 2012 with the collaboration of the Chamber and other people. And so I think we've done a really good job, but it's only because we've worked with the business community.
Yeah, it's cool. We've got about 4 minutes left, and
flies.
I've got a few questions on ancillary topics, but is there some kind of a message that you think the people needs to hear, the the community needs to hear?
Well, I think a lot of people know we've really worked hard to engage the community for the last, we started in 2007, so it's 7 years. And I think there's so many good wins. Hydro needs to get what we need for the facility, a reliable, safe facility. And we're going to get that. And I think it's because we've engaged people so long, we've worked out an agreement with the Chamber of Commerce to staff the Interpret Center with us.
I was just going to mention that.
And then
too.
we got the museum, which I think is fantastic. The museum at Campbell River is going to staff it this summer, starting in May, 5 days a week, Monday to Sunday.
Out near the
Interpret Center is right off Brewster Lake Road by the Elk Falls Park. And so they're going to bring elements to the museum to the Interpret Center and vice versa. And I think that's great. The Rotary Club Suspension Bridge is supposed to be going in July. That's not going to get going. That's going to. I think Lori Buza and the Rotary Club wants to get that going around July. And that parking lot that we're developing by the Interpret Center enabled that. It goes on, and so we've worked with the community really, I think, quite well.
Earth Hour stats. Were you disappointed in that? We were good, but not great.
Yeah, I haven't followed it too much. I know we were down. I think when it first started, it was quite new. It was a bit of a novelty, and maybe that's worn off a bit. I think the broader message is that anything people can do to reduce energy consumption is a good thing. It saves your hydro bill. Rates, like we talked about John Hart project and other things, rates are slowly going to be going up. They're not going down.
It's slowly going up, did you say?
Well, depends on your perspective.
Got some wax in my ears, Steve.
No, I mean, it's you know what? It's a really hard position for us to be in. We have all these projects we have to reinvest in, and you have to balance the low-cost energy demands and the impacts that creates to families. And so we understand that. But anything people can do, not just once a day with Earth Hour, but throughout the year, is a good thing.
Time, I'm probably running tight, but tidal power, there's 2 minutes, a demonstration project perhaps, or something that just got approved, or to study more?
Well, there's
Does
a few.
that figure at all?
Well, I think that's a ways out yet. In other parts of the world, it's been developing. There's one down by Race Rocks. I know Maud Island recently here been talked about for many years. It's just the challenge here in BC is our rates are quite low compared to other jurisdictions in the world. So tidal power makes a little more sense. Salt water, marine impacts, navigable waters are all big things that they're still trying to wrestle with. But it'll come. But just, I don't think it'll be any,
What kind of light bulbs do you use at home?
I've got LED lights.
I'm glad.
CFLs were good. They've evolved over time. They were a little bit tough to begin with because it took a few seconds to warm up.
Something called mercury in it?
Yeah, that was a whole other. We don't have that's a longer discussion. But yeah, no, LED lights are more efficient, and I just like the light. The emittance coming out of them. But they're not cheap.
Last.
But they last a lot longer.
All right. Well, folks, there's another talk about here on Shaw North Island. Thank you, Shaw, for doing this. Thank you, volunteers. And yes, thank you for watching. Tell a friend. We're on YouTube too, and we run several times through the week as well. So thank you, Steve, for coming in.
Thank you.
And again, thank you, everybody. And we'll see you soon on another show.